Episode of GotUrSix Tv. We're a little early today for one of our guests, but in the world of recruiting, you never sleep, right? So we're getting started bright and early on a Monday morning. So excited today to have Corey on. 9 years in Marines. He's in the Marine Reserve now, but he's a recruiter. So if you're enlisted and you're between a rank of 4 and a 9, you really want to stay here and listen to this discussion today, because we're going to talk about tips and trends. If you're a company looking to go out and set up a program to go out and recruit veterans in, you're really going to want to take a listen to this. We're going to talk about some do's and don'ts when you're working with recruiters, and we're going to find out a little bit more about Corey's superpower. So, Corey, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Keith. I really appreciate it.
So, Corey, you were in about, 9.5 years as a Marine and now as a reserve. Tell us kind of why Marine, right? I mean, you could have picked others, but why Marine?
Okay, fair enough. So I grew up in upstate New York, a city called Amsterdam. And I remember I wanted to do something that was bigger than myself. And any service to your country, any branch is great, but I looked at the Marine Corps as the toughest challenge. And, I just kind of want to be number one on that podium and take that toughest challenge, I thought, physically and mentally. And that's the reason why I chose the Marine Corps.
And so your experience while you were in, I mean, do you have any kind of takeaways about what you learned that maybe you didn't know you were going to learn while you were in?
Yeah, absolutely. And my experience is rather unique. So I joined, the day after I graduated high school. And the first experience I got in boot camp was an appreciation from my upbringing, what the Marine Corps gives to you, when a lot of my peers were missing home. And I was really just happy to get a paycheck and, get paid to work out. Started off in Camp Pendleton back in '06, and I'm a postal clerk by trade, which, isn't a very sexy title, but I had a broad spectrum of experience between logistics, operations, finance, and I was given the opportunity to lead at a young age. When I deployed in '08, 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit, I was able to lead, 40 guys overseas, when we were getting packages, working, the routing of mail to the service members, which is awesome. Send those packages when we're deployed. But it did help me get the experience at a young age of leadership. And I can see now it's 2018, 12 years later, where I've been able to grow. One of my biggest experiences was on Marine Corps recruiting duty, when I was able to see a young man or woman come from their senior year in high school, meeting their parents, and then having that transition to become a Marine. It helped me as a leader because it really humanizes somebody. Not only, hey, mission accomplishment, but we do have a mission, but you're a human as well. And it helped me grow as a leader there.
So you wouldn't change it. You wouldn't change a thing, would you?
I wouldn't. I probably would have stayed active duty, to be honest with you. But no, I wouldn't have changed a thing.
So when you and this is always a popular segment on the show, transitioning out, it's there's a lot of resources that are out there. Some could argue there's too many resources. How do I navigate it? Some would say, look, I probably didn't get what I was looking for, whatever the reason. If you could transition all over again, what's maybe a couple of things you did well and a couple of things you're like, boy, I could have done that better?
Okay, so in my transition, I didn't do the networking thing until a little bit later in the game. And everybody transitions for their own reason, whether it's after 4 years or 34 years, it doesn't matter. Stay in the military, get out regardless. Whatever your transition is, I would say start a little bit sooner. I'd say, at least 24 months out, even if you're thinking about it or not. And in the military, it's about service. You're giving your service to your country. So, the average service member is rather selfless. Like me, I was a little more in tune and focusing on the mission than my transition. I know a lot of guys do that. Once you make that decision to transition, mission accomplishment is important. But at that point, you do have to take care of yourself first. Working on maybe your VA benefits, your networking, reaching out to a recruiter. A couple of things that I waited till a little bit later in the game was LinkedIn. You have to leverage LinkedIn. I didn't take it seriously until a little bit later. Once I did, uh, my networking and my interviews skyrocketed. Until I started working here at the Lucas Group, I didn't know that recruiters or headhunters or whatever you want to call it existed. You can leverage those guys, and depending what it is you're looking for and what you've done in the military can be a huge asset for you.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. And it's amazing just over the past couple of years how LinkedIn has really taken off as a platform to help transitioning service members and veterans. It's literally one of the hot topics every time we do these shows when they're talking about it, especially for folks that transition, before LinkedIn, they're like, man, that would have been helpful, right? Because you've got your core network, but let's face it, it's not a who you know world anymore. It's who knows you. And until you can reach out outside of your initial sort of concentric circle, it's tough, right? It's a huge world. There's a lot of competition for resources.
Right. And, to piggyback on that, Keith, you hear a lot of times, even from my transition or my peer group or now, you hear guys saying, I'll be getting out in about 90 days, but it's okay. I've got a couple of job offers, or I know a guy that said to call me up. I'm all set. And then, when the rubber meets the road and, they get that DD-214, they don't have a job. It was just give me a call or, hey, yeah, we're interested in your background. But, really until you have that offer letter with a start date on it, you have a signature, you do not have a job or a job offer. You need to remember that. You need to keep the wheels moving until you have that paper in hand. And I think it was a study done in 2016. It was 80% or more of new hires came from some sort of networking, whether that be LinkedIn or Facebook, some sort of social media. And, I really think they used to call it the good old boy network where, you have a friend or a hookup. Now we call it networking, um, people, and like you said, getting yourself out there, you do need to be seen.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Getting seen in a world where there's, every year there's 200 something thousand folks that are transitioning out of service. So you're in theory competing with part of them, say the 170,000 maybe that don't go start a business. They're all going to go out and look for a second career, whether it's in, teaching at a college or running a military and veteran program or whatever it is, running a sales job, whatever it is going to be. That's a lot of competition.
Right.
So let's transition into the topic that I really want to spend some time with is, right, Lucas Group, huge organization doing a lot of great work around the recruiting. How did their why align with your why when you transitioned out?
Fair enough. And so the Lucas Group, we started in 1970. Our founder, Art Lucas, who is a veteran, he wanted to make it easier for veterans to transition into the civilian sector. And transitioning is not always easy, whether it's, trying to translate what your experience is onto a resume or now talking about me instead of talking about your troops. So we started off there. Now we've grown into a bunch of different divisions. I'm in the military division myself. What brought me to the Lucas Group is I really wanted to stay affiliated with the military. I did transition over into the reserve side, so I do get that. I do get that fill. But here at the Lucas Group, number one, my boss is a Marine, so that helps out. The culture here is very similar to the military, whereas it is a team. Every day I'm talking to veterans on the phone or Skyping with or having coffee with, and like I alluded to before, whether it's 4 years or 34 years, now I'm the subject matter expert and I get to lead you through your transition. You could have been, hey, look, help me, I'm 22, I'm getting out, I'm not sure what it is, or been 22 years and all I know is the military and all I know is, people shaking their heads yes or me, booming and bucking all day to, I really don't know what it is that I want.
Exactly.
And I'm able to help them through, okay, here's, maybe what your resume should say. And, for me, the opportunity that I get here is to be able to talk to a peer or service member frankly and say, look, let's role play. You suck at this, but that's okay. I did too. Here's how we can get better. And work them through that process.
So I love that. So you suck at this. So when I was at Homeland Security, I ran a large division. I had a bunch of customers inside EHS, and I called them up and I said, look, if we do business together 24/7, 365, you can call me up and tell me I suck, right?
Yeah.
If I suck, I'll fix it, right? And I'll call you and tell you when you suck too, right? So it was like
Right.
a mutual sort of relationship, right? You have to be open and honest. Are you seeing that folks, as they're transitioning out, are kind of open to hearing, all right, I don't do this well, or they're self-reflective and say, all right, I need to work on this, and you agree, and then you help them with that?
It's a 50-50 split, and it
Yep.
really depends on the rank of the guy or gal that's coming out. It depends on, their personality. Um, I remain consistent. And the great thing about what I do here is, maybe I reach out to you because I know I can help you. Maybe you reach out to me because you've seen of me or heard of me somewhere. Uh, but, here are my expectations of you as a candidate. Here's what you can expect of me. Here's how to call me out, if I'm not holding up my end of my bargain. And I promise you, I'll call you out when you're not up to par for your transition. And what I found is the service members that like that, upfront, approach,
Yep.
they have a bit easier time transitioning, whether it is me placing them in a company or them placing themselves somewhere else, because the transition's not easy, whether you're great at it or 4, 5, 6 times maybe. You may have to wait a little bit before
Yep.
you do get an answer back. So the guys that do take that better, I do know that, you do have an easier transition. You have to have that humble confidence because you are stepping out of your comfort zone, and thank you for your service, but you're not owed anything. You have
Right.
to work at this job search deal, and if you can be flexible, semper gumby, you're gonna have a much better train. Even if you have to bite your teeth and hit a punching bag afterwards, you know, be open to get told that maybe you're not the most proficient at something, and take that criticism, constructive criticism, to get better.
Yeah, I think you want that criticism, right? Because if you're not getting constructive criticism, how do you know where your gaps are, right? You may self-identify a few, but look, an outside perspective is always helpful. Look, it kind of sucks to hear sometimes that maybe you don't have the strength that you thought you had in a particular category, but damn, might as well hear it early. Why hear it late? It may cost you a job.
Right. No, it will. And I've seen it happen. I have seen it happen. And I've talked to very placeable candidates that, maybe with a chip on your shoulder, or, it has to be, specifically this way in a certain box, or, I'm not open to hearing criticism or what have you. And, 3 months down the road after your EAS, or that you got that DD-214, you come back, and I don't want to hear the, "Hey Corey, you were right." I don't need to hear that. I don't get any jollies off of it. Um, but it's fine. I'm going to help you regardless. Just make sure that you're open. And bad news, it doesn't get better with time. If you're
Yep.
working with somebody,
Like a fish, right? Just
right,
smells worse.
right.
So, what about some other transitioning tips that service members should be thinking about, a year before they get out? What are a couple other topics they need to be thinking about?
So a couple of other topics. I know each service does have their transition program. Take it once, take it twice. I know if you're a year out, I would take it, and then maybe 90 days out, possibly take it again. I do know there's value in there, things that you hadn't saw the first time or seen the first time, you'll see it the second time.
Yep.
Your resume, I don't recommend you paying somebody to write your resume. There's a lot of great assets out there. For me, send me your resume. I'll give you the critiques, send it back. You'll be good to go. Uh, if you are going to talk to a recruiter, I would do that 24 months out, just kind of get a baseline of where should I be, when should I be there. Let's see what the market looks like. Also, there's a really good chance that you're not going to know what you want to do or
Yeah.
what you can do. Hear it all the time. A couple of things that can be in your control: know what you've done, know where you want to live or can't live. And if you have, a significant other, make sure that you talk to them about it first.
Oh yeah.
And then know how much you need to make and work off of your current cost of living. If you're on the line with somebody and they say, well, what's your salary range or what do you want to make? And you say you don't know, that kind of hurts a little bit. We don't even know if the value of this conversation is happening. I can help you out with that. If you have a bunch of special duty pays that you're factoring into it, for example, my last active duty tour was recruiting duty here in the National Capital Region. So you get special duty pay because you're out on the road, maybe to buy extra lunch, whatever the case is, extra uniform cleaning. You don't really factor that in because thank you for your service, but it's not the new company's job to up pay you for whatever special bonuses that you were getting before. So my best recommendation is really look at your cost of living, your bills, what do you need, your extras, whatever standard of living that you're to, and figure what that number is, and that'll help you out. If you're talking to a guy like me or anybody else in a veteran help process, if you have those in line, I can kind of direct you to where you're going to fit based off of what you've done.
Love it. Great tips, great advice. And again, when you're coming out of service, right, you work with someone on the other side that can help. Look, two sides for a handshake, right? You're the other side reaching in, right? Someone's got to reach back out. And the fact that there would be someone on the other side to help you, shoot, man, take that all day, right? So let's talk about the other side. So you're transitioning out of service. There, God, I don't know. How many companies in America? 3 million, whatever it is?
Countless.
What would your tips be on the other side of the equation for companies that are looking to retain or to bring in and recruit talent from folks that are transitioning out? What are tips you would give those companies?
So if you're a company and you're trying to hire veterans, if you don't have a designated group, branch, recruiter that are veterans, to recruit your veterans, I would use a search firm or a foundation, a nonprofit or something like that. But you have to trust them. Right now, you look at veteran unemployment, hovering right around 4% right now nationwide. What that means to you, company, is that if you're not moving on these candidates, they're going off the market. There's a lot of great talent. You look at somebody coming out of the military, whether, like I said, 4 years or 34 years, they're going to have experience that you're not seeing from civilians, and I apologize to say that if you are a civilian, they're going to have leadership, working under pressure, technical abilities that, maybe I have that degree or I took that certification, but the hands-on, experience, possibly won't have it. On top of that, if you are working with somebody, I know this is tough, but you kind of have to trust that person to understand, look, I don't understand what this resume says, and I don't see how it relates to this job that I have open. But that's our job on this side to, hey, trust me, let's have this conversation. He does. This is why. Give him 10 or 15 minutes on the phone. If you're not sold, fine, cool. But I would definitely say trust the person that you're working with, and you have to move. In the market right now, it is a candidate-driven market, and these candidates do have options, a lot of options, which is great for you to know candidates. But, really, if you're in it to win it, make that move. And if you're not, just be upfront with either the candidate or the resource that you're using.
Love it. Good advice for companies that are looking to hire because, hey, it's good, right? The economy's going along pretty good. So there's more capital in the market. When you have more capital in the market, either buy widgets, to build out the companies and factories, or you bring in labor. And so I appreciate you sharing those tips for companies that are looking to bring in some talented folks that have either just transitioned or will be transitioning. Now, let's talk about some trends in the marketplace, right? So if you go through the history of time, it depends on, 250 years ago, it was agriculture was big. Then 150 years ago, it was manufacturing. Past 30 years is technology, plus healthcare and others. What are you seeing from your vantage points about trends in the market?
So the trends right now, and I gotta hover right around the technical manufacturing and technology right now.
Hmm.
And a lot of the guys that I do work with coming out, you got your maintainers, your maintenance guys that have a mechanical, electrical, electronic background,
Hmm.
and the leadership on that technical side. Look, guys, the baby boomers are retiring, and there is a
Oh
huge
yeah.
skills gap in America right now, and it's only going to get bigger. So what I'm seeing is, we're working with a lot of these companies in the manufacturing industrial settings that they're paying good for your technician coming out, 4 to 6 years, whether it was on the aviation side, the nuclear side,
Hmm.
mechanical, electrical. Um, the wages are good, the benefits are great, the upward mobility is great. The companies that are hiring these veterans, you want these go-getters that are coming out. And then the leadership that you're looking at are in that maintenance side, but also the operations, logistics. So, whether you have a technical ability or not, the mid-level to senior leadership, if you're coming out, you can really do some damage in that, manufacturing side.
Sure.
Uh, we have IT here. IT is huge. The job gap on the IT side is only going to grow over the next decade. So if you're in right now, just got in, a few years out, whatever the case is, and you're thinking, I don't know what I want to do, but I like technology, and you're not technical right now, whether it be engineering, mechanical, electrical, electronic, um, I would dabble into the IT side too, get some certifications because the money is great, they're looking for you, and there's a huge gap when it does come there. Market trends, hiring is good. Hiring is good. The average job search, you look from first interview to placement. The average is 2 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
I've seen the quickest I've seen was that I've placed was a 4 day turnaround. Had a
Hmm.
guy getting out, or he had gotten out already. Got a little bit of a late jump when we met. Um, Interviewed, follow up interview. He was local. I found him. He was local. On site 4 days later, he had the job started on Monday. You'll see some of the higher level roles, could last a few months. I have seen that work out. You get into the executive level role, higher competition, a lot more interviews, a lot more steps, a little bit of a pain in the butt, but nature of the beast. Uh,
So
but
you're saying basically that it to set expectations, right, for maybe first contact with you or with the company could take a month, right, to get placed. So you some of it is you have to be patient. The other part is the bills keep coming in, so you kind of have to balance a little bit of that, right, as you're going through the
yeah,
process.
indeed. And so for me, like I'll work with guys and I have up to 36 months out and we'll start let's say the interview process maybe 90 days out from your available start date. And really what that does for you is it allows you time to interview, get better interview, get some critiques. The 36 or 24 or 12-month out, what that does for you is, hey, here's what the market looks like. Here are job titles that work for you. Send me your resume. I'll send it back. Here are some critiques. Maybe, get on a video. We'll
Sure.
role play. Hey, man, don't say that. Say this instead.
Right.
So it all varies. I would say if you're transitioning, get the biggest jump that you can with, your networking piece. I work with a lot of veterans that have been out, for some time. A lot of that's a little more isolated. Maybe you have, some industry experience under your belt. That's fine. I'll help you out. As long as your job tenure is good, you can
Right.
stay in one place for a little bit of time. But for you, the transitioning service member or veteran, you haven't job hopped. You couldn't. You're on a contract.
Yeah.
So there's value there. Companies like to see guys that are going to stay.
Sure.
There are resources involved in, the onboarding, training, all that kind of stuff.
Love it. I appreciate you sharing that. So we got a few more questions. Um, Do's and don'ts. You talked a little bit about do's and don'ts, but maybe two or three top do's and don'ts that you would want folks to be thinking about before they jump into the market.
Okay, so don'ts. If you're a transitioning veteran and I just want to get out, so I'm going to get out, but I don't know what I want to do and I don't have a plan, really make that T-chart and figure out if I do have this option to stay in or get out, what is it I want to do, and are there options, and who do these options affect? Do do network,
Yeah.
get on LinkedIn. Very, very important for me. I didn't buy into LinkedIn till a little late in my process, but get into it. Make your LinkedIn profile as sexy as possible. Remember, this is how you want an employer to view you.
Yeah.
Um, a a funny quip that the best leader in the world, or something like that. Don't do that. Get to the point.
Yeah.
I'm a transitioning service member seeking leadership opportunities in this area. Um, then put your accomplishments down there, quantifiable. Don't be negative.
Yeah.
When you're in the job process and you're interviewing, looking for a job, it's sunshine and rainbows. Make everything positive. If I get first contact with somebody and it's a complaint or negative, I mean, I'm working with you, but I have to coach you. Nobody wants a whiner or a complainer. It just kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
Don't complain. Even if you're having a tough time, try to put some sort of positive spin on that. People want to work with people they want to work with.
Oh yeah.
If I look at somebody who's more qualified, but I don't like them, as far as a fit, and I have somebody I know can do the job pretty good, but I like them or it's a better fit, it's probably going to go with that person. So you're going to want to come off as easy to work with. You want to portray yourself as humble but confident.
Absolutely.
If you're going in, 60 miles an hour, the best thing since sliced bread, um, it may not be taken in the most positive light. But if you're the best thing since sliced bread, but you can share with the peanut butter and jelly, it's gonna be a little bit better for you.
Love it. So we're at the point of the show. We got a couple more, and I'll get you out of here on these. So fun segment on the show we like to call the big idea, and in the big idea, we like to have our guests kind of share, just based on their personal experience. If they had the 2 minutes with POTUS over a tasty Big Mac, he said, "Hey, big fella, I need a favor," and it would help others. What would your big idea be, Corey?
Okay, so for me, my big idea I would say for promotion in the military. I mean, I would love everybody to have to serve in the military. That'd be great because
I agree.
the just the traits that you gain from it are outrageous.
Yeah.
But if you are in, I would say, for promotion, we focus a lot on mission accomplishment when it comes to leadership. And I know a lot of great leaders that pointed me in the right direction on professional development. I would definitely make that a mandatory requirement when it comes to promotion or moving on. What kind of certifications are you doing? Are you attending off-duty education? Uh, it happens, in my experience in the Marine Corps, but I know in a lot of instances maybe it doesn't. That what are you doing for you?
Yep.
I know in the Marine Corps, I think it's somewhere around 70% of Marines get out after the first term, and very similar in all of the other branches. And then, it dwindles down. Less than 1%, retire after 20 plus years. Let's make sure that these guys are worrying about them on their next step because, again, hey, they're people too. They're
I
people
love
too.
that idea. And again, I don't know how you did it, but I sucked with a capital S at the personal stuff while I was in at Homeland. It was always, there's a mission, you got to solve this, you got to do it by this date, right? You got a bunch of people that need different things. So you're solving problems for the mission. You don't
Right.
really think about your own personal sort of well-being. So I love that idea because I sucked at it, man. Just never a thought in my mind.
It was kind of mutually beneficial for me because through the ranks, I would always ask my superior, whoever was in charge of doing my evaluations or fitness reports,
Yep.
what do you need from me to be the best? And, they would let me know. And I would do a lot of that stuff so that when it came time for my fitness report or, pros and cons at that time, hey, look, here's what I'm doing for me that's going to help you, that, sets me apart from my peers, where it does help the Marine Corps, but it
Yep.
also helped me too. So that's kind of how I balanced it.
Great advice. Great advice. Now I'm going to get you out of here on this one. So, Corey, the last segment on the show, we always like to call the superpower segment. Everybody's got it. Whether the good Lord gave it to them, they figured it out, or probably a little bit of both. What's your superpower, Corey?
My superpower, I'm a great listener.
Oh, there is a guy out there.
Everybody, I am a great listener. So this really came from, I think I got this from Marine Corps recruiting duty. You're working with 16, 17, 18-year-olds that don't necessarily know what they want.
Yeah.
And I was a good recruiter, only because I really didn't care if you joined the Marine Corps or not. I really just wanted to help you. And that carried over, into my personal life, into my profession now. Whereas, I'll ask you an open-ended question. Just talk to me. Just let me know, what you have going on. What are you looking for? What are your pain points? And I'm going to read between those lines. And, hey, this is what I'm hearing. And you probably didn't know, that's what you were thinking. But when you put it into these terms, like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. So my listening skills, I can really translate that over into English, I guess, if you will.
Hey, man, that's a great sort of skill. That's something that these have never been that great at, but you need to be a good listener, and, that's your superpower. I love it. So, Corey, what's a good way for folks to get a hold of you, like website-wise? Do they just go to the Lucas Group? Was that a good spot?
So if you're transitioning, you can go to the lucasgroup.com. There's a tab in there for, job seekers, and you can go to which division you want and choose somebody. If you are a transitioning veteran, I would say reach out to me on LinkedIn, Corey Quill. I'm wearing the same jacket, I'll be honest with you, in my LinkedIn photo.
Nice.
And I can direct you to wherever you need to be. Perhaps I'm a good resource. If I am, great, let's make the relationship. Perhaps I'm not, and I'll let you know that. That's absolutely fine. There are not a lot of Corey Quills, so LinkedIn or Facebook, I would say, would be the best ways to get a hold of me. LinkedIn has all of my email addresses and phone numbers. If you just want a general, hey, let's see if Lucas Group can help, either hit me up on LinkedIn or go to lucasgroup.com, and that's absolutely fine.
Love it. Hey, man, I appreciate what you're doing. And you're at that, you're in that millennial age. You've served, so you got those two boxes. You listen well. Damn. That's a dynamic force I'm looking at there, brother. So
the complete package, ladies and gentlemen.
I appreciate your time, Corey, and I'm sure we'll have some folks that'll be wanting to reach out and at least start the conversation with you and kind of see where it goes from there. And I appreciate you taking the time today to join us.
Hey, Keith, I really, really do appreciate the opportunity. Shout out to GotUrSix TV. Awesome Thank organization. Come visit me on what you're doing here. I appreciate that.
Roger that. All right, folks, stay tuned for some upcoming episodes. We're going to have the good folks on from OpsLens on Wednesday and Vetted later on tonight. So stay tuned for those upcoming episodes. Thanks, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Corey.